Anytime you're ready, boss.
Anytime you're ready. So let's
Ready?
go.
I'm ready. Let's go.
Let's go.
Okay.
It's Wednesday night, and that means only one. That means only one thing, Amelia.
What's the buzz time?
Let me put my teeth back in. Hold on.
It's a special, but what's the buzz actually?
We're not used to doing this on Wednesday. That's why my whole feng shui is all thrown off.
It's because we have a special edition today.
We do have a special What's the Buzz episode. Hello, everybody. Yes. I'm the Mad Dog. Welcome to What's the Buzz on Wednesday night. How about that? I'm still like not really dealing with the fact that we're doing a show on a Wednesday, because I'm sitting back getting high right now. Mm-hmm. But I have to but it's all good. Tonight, the death and replacement of Paul McCartney, as told by Ann Walsh, co-author of Shadow of a Bassman and Shadow Dancing, Rise of a Bassman, and Marianne Howard, co-author of the same incredible books, Shadow Dancing, Rise of a Bassman, and The Shadow of a Bassman. These are really amazing books, especially the liner notes and the reviews. Hold on, folks. I wrote the reviews and the liner notes. Great book. Great book. Let me introduce everybody to my able-bodied co-host. This is Amelia, the Pitbull Chapman. How are you, Amelia?
Well, it's been a long day. Let's just say that.
Well, I'll tell you what. I just made your day longer, baby.
We had a long meeting today.
We may have a really interesting show tonight. I'll tell you what. Mary Ann and Ann have been on the show before. When the release of Rise of a Bassman came out, they were the first. I think I was the first.
You were the first interview. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And it's funny how serendipity played into that. And I'll let you tell that story later, Marianne. Annie Walsh, my buddy Annie, it's good to see you. Annie's been on the disabled list for a little bit, but she's bouncing back and she's looking spry, as sexy as ever. How the hell are you, kid?
I'm doing fine. Thank you. Thanks for having us on the show.
Oh, it's great to have you.
Well, I'll tell you what, you're looking good. And of course, I got Big Mouth. I mean, Marianne with me.
Hey, Paisan.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
The last time Marianne was on the show was with Amelia. They did, I think, what do you guys talk about that night?
The Beatles.
Yeah.
Oh, you talked about the Beatles. Okay.
We talked about their book. We talked about their book, actually.
We're in familiar territory because tonight, the death and replacement of Paul McCartney is taking center stage yet again. For some reason, this is one rumor that won't go away. It's got legs that just keep on running.
It's funny how the truth does that, right?
Yeah.
Huh? Say that?
It's funny how when the truth happens, that they keep having legs.
I'm telling you what, it won't die. This rumor has been around. I think we can surmise by now, 56 years, 57 years later now, it's more than just a rumor. There's got to be something to it, because even Sir Paul McCartney, quote unquote, Sir Paul McCartney, it has acknowledged it. And so that's saying something. By Sir Paul, we mean Billy Shepherd, Billy Campbell, Billy Shears, whatever name you want to call him by. He's Billy or William. Marianne, why? You know what? I'm not going to go to you. I'm going to go to Annie because I ain't seen Annie in a while. Annie,
What's up?
why does this thing just keep taking off? What is it about this whole thing that just keeps going?
Well, we're all Beatle fans and we just want to know the truth. And I think there's a lot of disclosure that has been coming out for years about other conspiracies. And this rumor has been around since September 1966, and it started in London, did not start here in the United States.
Right.
So it's very intriguing. And the Beatles had such an impact on all our lives that we really want to know the truth because we're fans and we want to know. We have a right to know the truth, and he has the right to his legacy also.
Yeah,
You know,
I think you pointed out something there that's critical, and people need to understand this. Rumor and speculation often spring from the truth, an element of truth. In every rumor, there's an element of factual foundation. That's important to know because this rumor, as Annie said, began in England. Now, why is that important? Because it's much fresher and closer to the source than we are. That tells me a lot. That tells me it's got plausibility. It tells me it's got serious traction. And where you have traction, you got legs to run. Over the years, and I think I'm going to bring Mary in at this point. Over the years, Marianne, this has taken on a life of its own. Why now, all of a sudden, all these many years later, do we still even care? And people genuinely do care. Tell us why.
Well, I don't think it's just all of a sudden. We've been caring about this for a while. Ann's been on this for 14 years and I'm on 4. So, I mean, I've been a Paul lover of Paul since I was 6. So we all care because they were the people that we grew up with. They were the people who shaped our lives in our early development, our teens, and it carries on. So the travesty of Paul being replaced, being dead and replaced, not having that disclosure is tragic. It's terrible. It's horrific in my opinion. But I think that it's one of those things where you're depending on the side, the people who see Sir Paul as still being Paul, they're very protective of him. And it's going to be a shock, just like other things that have been done, other atrocities that are being done. When it all comes out, what happens?
Yeah. Well, and that's what we're going to talk about right now. That's a great segue, Marianne, because what we're going to talk about right now is the fact that there are a great many people still around, still alive and well from that period of time who knew what happened, who hold the keys to the secret of what happened to Paul. Right. One of those people is Denny Lane. I had the fortune of hearing from his lips in person and a group of people after a performance one night exactly what happened. And I heard the story about Japan firsthand. One of the things that has to come to fruition at some point, and either you or Ann can talk about it, is at some point, either Billy, I'll call him Billy or William, either he or Ringo are going to have to acknowledge something. Because for all intents and purposes, Ringo's star is the last Beatle.
Right.
I don't care how we slice or dice it.
That's true.
So you want to address that, or you or Annie?
Go ahead, Ann.
Well, Ringo actually came out and said that he was the last remaining Beatle.
Aha.
Yeah.
Back in 2009, I believe it was, when he was doing a skit with Billy. And that was like a big buzz going all over, that he said that. But he also said that there's some truth in that people don't know about.
Yeah.
He also did that April 1st interview or newspaper article.
Yeah.
It was like April Fool's Day.
Yeah, I know. I was going to refer to that.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell people that is an actual interview. It was a real interview done with Ringo at his home, where he kind of just like spilled the beans, tongue in cheek. He played it off tongue in cheek, but in that playful Ringo manner, because sometimes it's hard to take Ringo serious because he's very good. He's got a great poker face. He really does.
He's very dry, very flat, very dry, and just delivers in that same realm.
And Marianne, you nailed why it's hard to know whether he's telling the truth or not, because he is dry. Very little inflection. You see this a lot, the piece everywhere.
I just saw that last month. He's still doing it.
Yeah, he sure is. He's still but one of the things that has to come to fruition is disclosure, full disclosure. We've heard, you and I actually talked about it before we went on the air. 2023 is supposed to be when Paul McCartney times out, whatever the fuck times out means. I'm not sure what they mean by that. I'm still at a loss as to what timing out means. So if any of you know what the hell that even means,
I don't know what it means.
Take me there.
But they say the contract is expired.
That's
so is the contract expiring? He's able to then not have to do the non-disclosure agreement and have disclosure.
Yeah, that's what that means.
Is he expiring? Because you can't, for them to say, oh, well, he was supposed to expire in 2012 and now
his contract expires to be in Paul McCartney, and they're going to find a way to kill the character of Paul McCartney.
Amelia, if that's the case, Amelia, then let's assume two things. Number one, and let's play devil's advocate on both scenarios. Let's assume the contract expires and Billy is still alive at the time. That being said, he has to acknowledge that he is not Paul McCartney.
Correct.
Right.
Number two, he passes away before 2023, in which case he won't be able to acknowledge that he's not Paul McCartney.
Correct.
Somebody else will have to do it for him then, right?
Correct. Somebody else will have to do it for him.
Well, that's okay, you guys went right there because I'm going to go there. What happens then if no one's willing to acknowledge? There has to be acknowledgement. If you've got the status quo, going the way it is now, just kind of rolling with the punches. Oh, our beloved Paul died. Well, our beloved Paul died in 1966.
Yes.
Okay. Well, what happens then? Who's going to acknowledge? Certainly no one close to him is. His family won't. You know that.
Right.
They're going to say he's Paul McCartney.
They have to say
that
he is.
At what point does someone not connected say that's Billy Shepherd or Campbell or whatever name we're calling him these days? Then nobody can answer that for me.
No.
And there is my problem. I've asked that question, not just to you two guys and Amelia. I've asked that question to Mike Williams. I've asked that question to Vince Russo. I've asked that question to scholars, guys who studied the Beatles, guys like Bill Cromwell. I almost called them Crapwells. William Cromwell, Bill Cromwell, is a Beatles. You could look him up on Google. He's a Beatles expert. Okay, so and that's kind of what he does. He's like does really kind of what you guys do. He writes about the Beatles.
Yeah.
But
the only
not with
disclosure
your
we can
flair for the dramatic. This is real good stuff. By the way, let me show the book. This is the first one. This is called Shadow of a Bassman. This is the first book. This kind of tells the story of Paul McCartney's death from Paul's perspective. It's a very interesting read on the Paul is dead phenomenon. I'll call it that. The next book, the more recent of the two, is called Shadow Dancing. And are we still calling this the Shadow series? Is that what we're calling it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is called Rise of a Bassman. This takes a very different perspective. It's the story as told through the eyes of some of the offspring. You'll see the name Paul in here, but it often refers to Paul Lennon. And I'll let Marianne and Ann explain that in a bit. We have people in our... What is this? Oh, hold on. We got something big time in our chat room here that I just had to block. We're not using that kind of language on the air. Forget about it. Yeah. So, let me ask you this question, Annie. At what point did you decide to continue the story, but to add interfamily members to it?
I think it was right after we finished. When we had brought in Paul's offspring, his son, who's now an orphan and that John Lennon adopts. So we wanted to continue to bring out other government corruptions that's been going on while he's growing up and he's finding out more about his father and his legacy, and to bring out more information about Paul himself. And if you can kind of picture Paul Lennon as a reincarnated Paul, he's got a lot of his mannerisms, his character qualities, what Paul was into, what he liked. So we can kind of bring that out through his son, who's very much like him. So as the series goes on, we kind of sway away from the Paul rumor about his death to get more involved with government, and then we swing back into the rumor towards the end, because we have about 20 years where there's nothing really going on in the PID world that we can actually write about. So it didn't really come to play until 2009.
I think the way you guys handled this was brilliant.
Thank you.
I look at it this way: the Shadow series is a building. I look at it as a building. This is the foundation.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this is the brick and mortar. The next is going to put the roof on it. Here's what I find in the second one. It, as you said a moment ago, and let me corroborate that and explain for people. You can't talk about Paul is dead or the Paul McCartney conspiracy without the inexplicable government involvement. You're talking about MI5 in England. You're talking about the CIA, the FBI. You're talking about the National Program Office, Witness Protection. You're talking about all these different agencies that come to play in a grand scale cover. Let's just call it what it is. It's a massive cover up. A man dies and another man is taking over his identity on a grand scale. I mean, this is nothing small. This is a big fucking deal. You know, this is a big deal.
Yeah.
Marianne, how did you handle this? And were you aware of the grandiose kind of footprints you were stepping into here?
I don't think so. At the time when we were writing it, that we realized when we first started, we didn't know where we were going in the book. So we were writing chapter by chapter by chapter. Now that we're into the second book and going into the third, fourth, or fifth, however many we go through, it's come into more of the story and the development. And like Ann said, there's going to be some years where we're bringing in other atrocities, other issues with the shadow government. So,
well, how were you guided through that? And did you step lightly
up above?
Okay.
How were we guided through? We were guided by John, Paul, George, whoever else was sending us this God-given books.
I'll tell you what, it's interesting that you talk about John, George, Paul. Ringo's the only one left, but in the three that you're talking about, there was an interview done some years ago. It probably took place at George Harrison's house. It may have taken place at John's house. When I tell you, you'll understand. It was John, George, and Ringo, and they were around talking, drinking coffee at the table, sitting around talking and bullshitting. And George says something off kilter like Beatle Bill and Beatle Ed.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what I'm talking about. Tell everybody what I'm talking about, because if I didn't hear it from my own ears, I would have thought that I was losing my mind for a minute. Okay. And I still may be. I don't know. You have to ask Amelia. She works with me every week. Well, tell everybody, Annie, what we're talking about.
Oh, well, there was, an interview. They were at John's house. It had to be about the early 70s when George was there with Yoko.
Yeah.
They were having breakfast or something, and George brought up, how's Beatle Ed doing in, I forgot what country it was.
Sweden.
And then John, pipes back, and he also says something like, we're the Fab Four.
Fab Three.
John Braxton says, no, we're the Fab Three.
No, he says we're the ones having tea with our wives, the Fab Three. But it was, he was referencing the wives are having tea with them. Yeah.
That was at John's house.
A Beatles wife is making them breakfast.
It's interesting that they mentioned Beatle Ed. I don't want to tell you who Beatle Ed is, in case you don't know. Beatle Ed is actually Ian Leslie Whitaker. You've never heard that name before, but you've seen his picture. He is the man standing on the cover of Merry Maker magazine. That's Ian Wesley Whitaker. Look that up, Annie. It's called Melody Maker magazine. He's holding an award on the picture in the cover of that magazine.
Okay. The Melody Maker?
Yeah, I think it's called Melody Maker. And I mentioned that name to Mike Williams. I almost said Mike Stone, but because I'm thinking about another guy named Mike Stone. But Mike Williams and I had an interview, and I mentioned that name to him. I said, "Look it up. If you think I'm crazy, look it up." His name is Ian Leslie Whitaker, and he is a spot-on dead ringer for Paul McCartney. There's one problem though: he doesn't sing. He's got a very high-pitched voice, and if he opened his mouth, you would surely know that it wasn't Paul. So he never sang. He was a guy that took photo ops with the Beatles. He would shake hands and nod. Occasionally he'd say thank you in kind of a lower voice. But his normal speaking voice was a little bit on the higher side. Kind of like a whiny, I don't want to use that word, but kind of like a nasally voice.
That's what I was going to say.
You know what I mean? Like I don't want to say whiner.
So he was the stand-in when Billy Shears couldn't make it.
Yeah.
So he was Billy's stand-in,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've heard Mike Williams referred to.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, you've even read it in Memoirs of Billy Shears. You've heard the name Street Paul.
Yeah.
You've heard Studio Paul,
mm-hmm.
and you've heard a concert Paul.
Oh, okay.
Okay. The guy that did Rock Show, that was Billy. Okay. The guy on the cover of Melody Maker magazine, that's Ian. And Ian was a bit like 5'10", 5'11", more like Paul's height. Billy's 6'4".
Mm-hmm.
He's at least 6'3", 6'4", at least. And you can tell his height when he stands next to a woman, particularly back at the time. If there's a picture, I think there's a picture of him maybe with Jane Asher after Paul McCartney passed.
Mm-hmm.
And Paul and Jane Asher were just an inch apart. Paul was only an inch taller than Jane. Jane was a tall girl because she was a model. People don't understand that. She was a model and actress. And people still don't get that fact. And all you have a computer, look it up.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. She was 5'6".
If she was 5'6", then Paul's height was wrong. Because Paul said that he was 5'11".
We go through this, don't we, Anne? We have a lot of conversations over the height of were they really 5'10" and 5'11". Some people say they're shorter.
To talk about. We can actually talk about that, and it's critical. It may be the smoking gun to all of this, the height. And here's why I say that. Paul himself said he was 5'11".
Yes, he did.
He said he was 5'11". Mm-hmm. If you accept that as truthful,
I can't hear you. Sorry.
Here you go.
There you are.
Yeah, and my microphone got muted somehow. I know that. Unless Marianne was trying to shut me up.
No, my hands are. I'm not touching the keyboard.
But if you assume that he was 5'11" as being truthful, then Jane Asher had to be at least 5'10", because the photo I have shows them 1 inch apart. Right. I don't believe that she was 5'6".
Was she wearing heels?
I know this because she was in fact a model.
She was
and I don't know anybody in England, especially London at the time, on the modeling scene that was less than 5'10". Some of them women were 6 foot tall, but they were all very tall and lean.
She was an actress, Angelo. She was an actress.
She was an actress, but she was an actress model. That's how she started modeling. That's how she became an actress by way of modeling. People don't remember that. Everything's public knowledge. All you have to do is look it up. Mm-hmm. And I encourage people to do that. If you assume that Paul was telling the truth, somebody was lying somewhere. If you look at him in 1964 at JFK Airport at that famous press conference, he and John Lennon were the same size. And I know that John was 5'10". Mm-hmm. John was 5'10". He was not over 6 foot. Paul McCartney, biological Paul McCartney, was not over 6 foot.
No, he was just a smidge taller than John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was it.
I've been, as I mentioned before we got on air, I've been working doing a slide presentation and going through all this. And the thing with Jane, you can look at Jane and Paul and their height, but when you really see it, it's not comparing the two of them. It's comparing Jane then with Billy. Well, and then when you put Linda into the mix, and Linda is way taller than Jane, then
you're going to see that right now.
Okay.
Let's look at it now. And by the way, feel free to tell me to stop at any point to discuss.
Okay.
I know them ladies. Not even close.
Not even close.
That looks like he's wearing a dead animal on his head.
The
Look
wig?
that. That's a horrible wig.
It is very
horrible. The mouth is all different.
The teeth.
If any of you can look at that and honestly say that he looks like Paul McCartney, then I'm going to lend you my glasses, okay?
Well, you know, if people are looking, the nose is different, the ears are different. Paul has the smaller mouth palate. So his mouth and his teeth are more come back. And
you know what the giveaway is for me, Marianne?
Well, it's the eyes for me. What is it
right there? Yeah. That picture right there. The giveaway for me, the eyebrows.
That's
Paul
what I was gonna say.
High arched eyebrows.
Yes, the eyebrows was a giveaway.
Paul's eyebrows sat above, almost on his forehead. Mm-hmm. This guy's eyebrows are right there at the eye line.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, when you put them proportionately in the pictures and side by sides, and you even do the lines across, they don't match up. The faces don't.
No. And it's easy to see why.
Yeah.
Oh, we went back to the beginning. I don't know. Okay. We'll let it roll. look at the height difference here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If that's the same guy, either he grew or she shrunk.
24 years old, you don't grow.
No.
Exactly. It's the same woman. That's Jane Asher in both pictures.
Correct.
So either she shrunk or he grew. Or it's not the same guy. Clearly, it's not the same guy.
Ding, 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 ding.
Hello. Give that man a prize.
Yep.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Now we could talk about that. They're clearly biological Paul and clearly someone that's not biological Paul. The guy that we know is Paul McCartney today, Billy Shepherd, William Campbell, Billy Shears, whatever you want to call him. He's not Paul McCartney. And he's a hell of a lot taller than any of the Beatles were. Including John.
Mm-hmm.
If he were next to the other original three today, he'd stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
Because they were all around the same size except for Ringo, who was much shorter at 5'6".
I don't know if
maybe
you've seen
5'7".
Have you seen the pictures, Angelo, from the Sgt. Pepper party that was at Brian's house? Now I have them in our slideshow that we're going to do.
I know what you're talking about. Yes, I have seen them.
The three are standing on the hearth,
Mm-hmm.
which is elevated, and Billy is still crouching down.
Yeah.
To come into the size of their, and there's famous pictures with them all at this angle.
Yeah.
But we have seen pictures now of the actual footage of the whole shoot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they are out there. If anybody's interested, go on the internet. They're there.
Yeah.
Yes.
And one
We'll
line,
watch our YouTube channel in a couple weeks, and it'll be out there.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ann.
one lie that we have been told that I think that's important to bring up is the reason why Billy grew a mustache in 1967 was because he wanted to hide the scar that he got from that moped accident that happened back in December 1965.
Right.
So the so-called moped accident, Paul split his lip, and he also got a cut on his forehead that he had to have stitched up. So when you look at the pictures of Paul during the 66 tour, that scar, you don't see it. I mean, it's healed up. It looks perfect. He looks great. There's no scar.
I'll tell you what, Annie.
But
if you look at Billy today,
you still
watch him speak.
Mm-hmm.
He still has that scar.
Right.
When they redid that, they made a big emphasis on that scar.
You're going to see that scar in living color in a moment. I want to bring Amelia into this because I haven't really. I haven't really brought her in here.
Well, no, I mean, it's just like you could tell now because I was seeing the old interviews how they used to kid around. I remember Paul used to go to Ringo and go, ha, make them laugh during the interviews. And all of a sudden that stopped. And they could tell that in the recent years afterward. And they were like, wait a minute, what happened to that? And they could tell that in the recent interviews. And they were like, okay, that's unusual for him not to be doing that. Because they could tell that.
There were certain things that were out of character that Paul would not have done, or that Ringo would not have done. Well, Ringo's kind of just he's just Ringo.
Because because that's how they said that he was just like a flat, like that, and then all of a sudden, he would do something to make them laugh.
You have questions for Ann or Marianne?
Yes, I know that the second book and everything was it more flowing the second book than the first one, or was it more difficult to write the second book than the first one?
They both came very easy. The first book, we did it in 10 weeks. It was done.
Yeah.
And this was during COVID lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
And it just started coming.
They had a lot of time.
Well, we were both still working. Both of us were still working, but we I was teleworking and Anne was doing night shifts, so we still collaborated every day at lunch pretty much.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, we had a lot more time because she was working at home. So
Yeah.
on our lunch break, it's like, hey, Marianne, let's do
I
some.
have an idea.
well, no, that's what we did. We did, you know, when Angelo, you were talking about us with the devil's advocate before,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and we would throw scenarios at each other and be the other devil's advocate and figure out what we were going to do in the next chapter. So, and then in a sense, that book, we went sort of chapter by chapter and how it just evolved.
Yeah.
But we didn't, I hear some people talk about when they're writing books and they put out outlines and they take all this time to, and
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't know any of that kind of stuff because we really were very unorthodox in how we just came to this.
I wrote a book. My first book, I wrote 2 books. My first book was 156 pages. It took me 8 months. A
wow.
book on the psychic realm. My second book took me 6 weeks. Same page, 155 pages actually. 1 page less than my first book. Took me 6 weeks. Okay. It just goes to show you
When
you
you know
get
you're
better
talking.
with practice.
No, I think it's the fact that, you know, we all 3 of us did this shorter time frame because we knew the topic. We know
Right.
the material.
and
we know what
that's-
we're doing.
Yeah, that's critical, Marianne. You know, my first book, and again, like I said, it took me 8 months. But my first book, I wanted to make it right. It was a self-help book. And I wanted to make it right because I knew somebody somewhere was going to pick up this book. And thankfully they did. They sold a lot of them. And they're going to look at this book and they're going to rely on that book, you know, as a guide. And so that's why it was important to me. I know with you guys, it was important to get the historical accuracy right because so much, even the historical stuff has been skewed by the internet. It's been skewed by people's opinions of what they think happened. Here's what we talked about. It's funny. We just mentioned this the other night. You know, William Randolph Hearst said, I just said last night, in fact, I said the same thing. William Randolph Hearst said, if the rumor or speculation is greater than the fact, print the rumor. Why would you do that? Here's why you would do it. Because people will talk about a rumor.
Yes.
They won't talk about the truth.
No. Get you to buy the book.
That's the psychology of writing a book. And that's why William Randolph Hearst was the greatest publisher in history. Okay. I want to talk to especially Annie at this point. Then we'll bring Marianne into it. Annie, you mentioned writing this book in lockdown and having lots of time. And in your case, you wrote part of it not feeling all that well. How did the catharsis of this book help you with your healing process?
Well, actually, that was book 3.
Yeah, we weren't there.
Okay.
It just happened a year ago. I had a catastrophic health crisis. So yeah, it was very therapeutic to write book 3 as it's an outlet. Actually, it kept my mind off of what was going on with me and kept me focused on what was really important.
Good.
And that is the truth. You know,
Beautiful.
She was writing away. I would sit there and she'd say whatever she was doing, and I'm like, "You need to rest. You need to slow down." With you.
No, Annie needed the last thing she needed
did.
to
She
do
wanted
was
to
slow
get it
down.
out.
She
Yeah.
needed to get her ass in gear and work. I have said this to people in counseling. Never take a moment for yourself. Always think about the other person. And that's what Annie did. She wasn't thinking about herself writing that book.
No.
She was thinking about the other person. You know?
Yeah.
So are you happy with the work you've done? Number 3 is in the works. I understand there might be possibly a number 4.
Oh, and number 4 is in the works.
Number
It's almost
4.
done.
Oh,
There'll be number 4. There'll be number 5. There's the nonfiction. We're gonna flip, I think, back to the nonfiction first, right?
Yeah.
We decided
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
do that.
we decided to do that to get the disclosure out.
I have a few Paul stories. You guys
I
know
love
that.
Paul's stories.
Oh, they're like, oh, yes.
I will save them for your factual based book.
Okay.
I will give you my Paul stories. My Billy stories, I should say. But close enough.
Right. Did any of you have the same ideas that you came across with when you were writing the books and say, oh, wait a minute, I thought of the same thing?
Oh, we did that all the
All
time.
the time.
Oh yeah, frickin' frack over here. Of course they did.
we have a mind melt, you know. Spock was in there and just
Like, wait a minute, I thought of that.
Yeah.
Questions,
It's amazing.
Amelia.
Yes, I was saying I could not put the book down, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then I was telling Mary Ann, I was like, please don't end up with Yoko. Please don't end up with Yoko. And I was like, yes, all right, yes. And I just could not
Questions,
put the book down.
Amelia.
Yes, I'm getting to that.
Can you get to the question without the 6-hour prelude? Ask them a question.
Yes. Would you be quiet?
Ask them a question.
But as you were getting to the book, and I know you said there was going to be a book 2 and 3 and 4. Angela, behave. And were you wanting to give them more children than just the one to adopt, or how many children were you thinking about giving them originally?
You mean for John?
Yes.
Well, since he's his death, they only had. Well, no, he has the girls.
Right.
I don't know, Anne.
It's very simple. Because the way we wrote Shadow the Bass Man is we wanted to make sure that people understood the fictional parts. So as everybody knows, John did not marry Connie. Connie is one of my best friends from New York, and she has 3 daughters. So they all got stuck in as children.
That's great.
Okay. So that people say, okay, we know that's not right, but let's focus on,
Well, Annie, that's a good point, Anne, while you're there.
Yes.
John was married to Cynthia, his first wife.
Mm-hmm.
Had children with Cynthia.
Julian.
Right? And he had no children with Yoko, correct?
Mm-hmm.
No,
Sean.
Sean.
Oh, Sean with Yoko.
Yes.
And and trying to and what
That's
there wasn't a daughter, right?
Yoko
John
has
Lennon
a
did not
daughter.
have a daughter.
Yoko had a daughter to a previous marriage.
Mhm.
Right. Okay.
Yoko.
I'm trying to get all the kids squared away here.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that there were.
We mentioned Julian. I don't believe we used his name, but
No.
we alluded
No, we
to
did.
him. Did we?
Yeah.
I think it. Yeah.
We may have.
Mhm.
I don't remember. But where was I going now? I just lost my train of thought.
That's okay. You're allowed to have a brain fart once in a while.
I'm having a brain fart, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did mention Julian,
Mm-hmm.
saying that, John, because of his marriage to Connie and because he was raising Paul's son.
Yeah, he was a half brother to him, and that's how they found out the birth certificate. Yes, I remember. That.
Yeah, and he was 13
Yes.
at the time. And,
Mhm.
and we put Paul there instead of Yoko when John was assassinated, so we can see from his eyes what happened, which is our research is the information that we found. So we put the whole scenario together on that tragedy when we lost John. So in order to continue the story, we wanted to bring Paul Lennon into adulthood and then create his life
Mm-hmm.
and then bring out more stuff. That's
I
the
have
reason why
a
we
question for you. Whoever wants to answer it. In shadow dancing, the alchemy of interfamily relationships here with the children and other people being involved, with someone who isn't familiar with the Beatles chronology or the personal relationships, will they have a problem understanding this book?
I don't know that they'll have a problem understanding it, but they're gonna probably believe the characters as they are written because I think we did our job.
I think you did an amazing job.
Yes.
That's why I'm asking you that question. That is specifically why I'm asking you. You did such a good job of interweaving the characters as real, as what I call palpable and breathable. In other words, you gave them life. You have those kind of characters in this book. It's hard to differentiate the fictionalized account from the historical account. And that's a testament to good writing, but it can also confuse a prospective reader if they're looking at this going, now wait a minute, that John wasn't married to somebody named Connie, or because they're going to assume that he was married to Connie, you know, and he wasn't.
No.
It was Cynthia and Yoko. That was it.
Right. That's why it's a fictional.
That's what the Beatle Bible's for, or Google
Right.
search. Or somebody's confused.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's take a look at. I've actually set this up for the ladies before we went on the air. What you're going to see are 3 separate video clips from 3 different time eras: the 60s, the 70s, and the late 80s, early 90s. It is David Frost interviews. He has all the interviews here in various stages of Paul McCartney and Billy. I want you to take a look, and I want you to notice the idiosyncrasies and listen to his voice carefully.
And Mr. Paul McCartney. Paul, it's great to have you here, and one thing, as we've been rehearsing today, that I've been wondering is whether, in fact, you ever expected things to be as good for you as, in fact, they've been. When you started as a group, did you expect things to go like this? Did you?
No. We used to sort of think of things in stages. Still do, I think.
Yeah.
When we first started off, playing in the cabin and things, I thought, first of all, let's get a record contract. We all did. We got a record contract. We said, let's get a #1 hit. Got one of them.
Yeah.
And
so I hear. Yeah.
Went on. We do it in stages. So we never
but
thought.
After you'd
of it
got a
being this
#1 hit, you hoped for another #1 hit. Did you?
Yeah.
Then what?
Something like the Royal Variety Performance.
And
something
then?
sort of big. And
Yeah.
Then, what came after that? America, I think.
Yeah. Which was marvellous. And after America?
The film.
Now, it's fairly close to the film being as big a success as everything else, I should think. Now, if it is, in sort of a bit later this year, a big success, what will be the next ambition then?
I don't know. Another film, probably.
Yeah.
I think that's about the only
success. And what about after that?
Oh, don't ask me. I'm only doing it.
Have you got any ambitions, in fact, in other spheres completely? I mean, do you want to be Prime Minister one day? Or,
No.
Does that sort of thing?
No, I don't want to be. No, nothing like that. No. God. Retire. That's quite.
Retire.
97 is the 40th anniversary of your meeting John Lennon. Clearly, the idea that he was the avant-garde one and you were the one who was more approachable, and he was the acerbic one all the time, and the cynical one all the time, and you were not. And I mean, it was not as simple as that, was it?
No, I think, when you look at anyone who gets famous, people pigeonhole them. They'll just say, so-and-so, he was witty, bright, and I've written a lot of ballads that have been very successful. They tend to sort of put me in the balladeer, but they forget, that I've done a lot of other stuff as well. It's, at least they give me credit for something, so it's not too bad. But yeah, the truth was that when John and I were together, we're much more equal. When we get in public, his front would come down. I've never needed it because my family in Liverpool was very sort of comfortable, and you were quite confident to be around people. John was always having to fight. He was always having to put up a front. And, oh yeah, what do you mean? And he was suspected, so he had this acerbic wit, they called it, as a defence mechanism, I'm sure. And it was only later, after really we'd finished working together, that I started to realise where it all came from. I mean, his father left home when he was 3, It didn't happen to me. My dad was always there. He was living with his aunt, his maiden aunt, and the uncle died. So John said to me later, he said, I started to feel like I was a jinx on the male members of the family, you know. Every time John showed up, they died or left, something, you know. And obviously that goes for a young brain. So, yeah, he did grow up with that. But when we were private and together, and there was no need for that.
Paul met, and history was made.
We started off writing very simple songs together. Gradually, the songs got a little more complex, a little better as we learned our trade. And then eventually, because we didn't spend time in hotel rooms together anymore, and we lived separately, he would write something, I would write it, and then we would probably finish each other's songs off. You know,
yeah, that's fascinating. You really could do that, couldn't you?
Yeah, you know, I'd write something like Eleanor Rigby, and I just didn't have the last verse or something, but I knew how the song went. So I'd take it to him and sort of say, okay, now, here's how it goes. What do you think? And it was a great way to work, and I valued his opinion greatly as he valued mine, because we'd grown up together, so we knew that each of us knew. And he would say, it's great, it's fine, you know. And I had, the second verse, I had a character called Father McCartney. Father McCartney, do-do-do-do. And he said, oh, that's nice. I said, no, that's my dad. So I don't really want to be singing about Father McCartney. So we got the phone book out. McCartney, Mackenzie. So he became Father Mackenzie.
Yeah.
So because they were in my sort of subconscious. Yeah.
Well, let's take...
We moved around a lot. My mum was a midwife, so we had a few homes. That was where we ended up.
Probably to do with growing up and to do with... There was a time when there were just four of them, but now they're married and there are children and...
How about the business
the reaction
because Alan Klein's name is mentioned, and Alan Klein is definitely disowned in this question and answer.
By Paul.
By Paul.
Because he doesn't like Alan Klein.
Well, it's never pleasant when someone appears not to like you. Unfortunately, he is obligated into Apple for a considerable number of years, so
yeah,
just disassociating himself with me has really no effect.
I want you to take notice of what Alan Klein said. He said he is contractually obligated for a considerable number of years. Okay? Mm-hmm. Alan Klein was also the guy, in large part, why the Beatles broke up. Paul, in point of fact, or Billy, I should say, in point of fact, detested, hated, loathed Alan Klein. Did not like the man at all. Not even a little bit. And you could see what he did there on that video clip where he goes like this for the little laptop that looked like he wanted to punch him even then. He goes on later to say, however, which you can't see, he goes on later to say, you know, he's gone now, so perhaps we shouldn't speak too ill of him. So he was trying to be kind. I wanted you to notice what I noticed. Mm-hmm. In the final interview with David Frost, Billy attempted to do something that he was very, very uncomfortable doing. This was it. Putting the finger to the mouth. Mm-hmm. Paul McCartney, however, biological Paul McCartney, in the very first clip, was so nervous about being singularly on television by himself without his bandmates that he was literally biting his fingernails and couldn't keep his finger out of his mouth. In fact, he was speaking, talking to David Frost with his finger in his mouth like this.
Comforting mechanism.
Yes.
Well, he wasn't, yeah, absolutely, for sure. He wasn't comfortable at all without his bandmates. Why? Maybe you guys can answer this one. Why do you think that David Frost chose him rather than the band's actual founder, John?
Well, Paul was a very approachable Beatle. He was known as the friendliest Beatle. So he was just easy to talk to, easy to get along with. He attracted people to him. He attracted the audience to the band. Mm-hmm. He knew when he performed, he drew people into their world.
Annie,
yes.
Didn't hurt, however, that he was also the cute one.
It hurt. Now he's
She's blushing.
I mean, now I'm a guy. Okay, I'm a guy. I'm going to tell you, Paul was the cute one.
Very handsome.
You know? Ringo was. Here's how people perceive. Let me show you how bad people are at perception. People always perceived Ringo was the funny one. George was the quiet one. Mm-hmm. John was the intellectual. Nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing could be. Ringo was the quiet one. George was the funny one. John was just John. John was just avant-garde out there. If it was against the grain, John was doing it. If it was something that had to be said that was going to get notoriety, it came out of John Lennon's mouth. I assure you. And Paul was just there for the ride. To kind of be the...
He was a good PR person, too.
Mm-hmm. He was a great PR guy. A great PR guy.
Yeah.
There was a guy here in Philadelphia. I grew up watching this guy. He was a newsman here. His name was Larry Kane. And he became known as the fifth Beatle for a very long time. Mm-hmm. He traveled with he was supposed to travel with the Beatles for 1 year. Larry ended up traveling with the Beatles for 5 years. And knew them during their time together and stayed in touch with them, in fact, even after they broke up. He was dear friends with John Lennon. In fact, John Lennon came here to Philadelphia several times to do the local news on the weather. That you can't, there's video clips on YouTube. You can go watch it.
Yeah.
Channel 6 Philadelphia. John Lennon does the weather. Can't make it up. You know, Marion, you're from Pennsylvania, so you might be.
I get it.
You might be old enough to remember that.
Well, back then we didn't have cable, so it was local to that area. And here in central Pennsylvania, we have our own stations. But
true,
yeah.
Absolutely. Philadelphia was its own market, for sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk about couple of things here. I got some stuff over here I want to read to you guys. Okay, here we go. Paul McCartney, it is said, or Billy, it is said, parodied the hoax of the Paul is Dead hoax with the title and cover art of the 1993 live album Paul is Live. True or false? What do you say to that? Is that a bunch of horse shit?
I'm trying to think which cover that is.
That's where he's walking across Abbey Road with a dog and he's got his foot up in the air. Remember that? I think it's he's mocking.
I remember the Abbey Road. I have it. I don't remember the cover. I honestly don't remember the cover of Paul is Live. I remember the album. I don't remember what the cover art looked like, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he's walking his dog.
I have to look at that now. Hold on.
Mm-hmm. He's walking his dog across Abbey Road, and he's got his foot up in the air. And I think he's just kind of mocking the rumor.
Mocking.
Yeah. And did you guys notice too on the second interview that the imitation Paul his voice was so different? He didn't even have an accent at all.
Oh, here it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the Abbey Road crossing with the Billy and it looks like a sheepdog, perhaps.
Martha.
Mm-hmm. Well,
or what? Let me see.
Well, it's yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Martha. So it wouldn't be Martha if it was that late, because she'd be gone.
No, she was gone by then. She was born in '66, June of '66.
Yeah.
He had a dog.
Yeah, I don't think it was Martha.
Well, they probably brought in another dog to play Martha.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know about
that.
Martha because I'm
Yeah.
a dog person for sure. Here we go. Paul is dead is an urban legend and conspiracy theory. We think that English musician Paul McCartney of the Beatles died on November 9th. We're going to talk about that date too, guys. 9 November 1966, and was secretly replaced by a lookalike. The rumor began circulating in around 1967, but grew in popularity after being reported on American college radio stations and campuses in late 1969. According to the theory, McCartney died in a car crash, and to spare the public from grief, look, yeah, you're not going to spare anybody from grief.
No.
The surviving Beatles replaced him with the winner of a Paul McCartney lookalike contest. There was, in fact, this is true. There was, in fact, a real Paul McCartney lookalike contest. The winner of that contest, can't make this up, can't make it up. His name was William Campbell. That's why the name Shepard and Campbell are always mentioned together. Is it William Shepard? Is it William Campbell? Because there are several people, if you go looking, there's a lot of people who look like Paul back in the day. A lot. But that is absolutely true. There was a Paul McCartney contest, and a guy named William Campbell won it. Sometimes identified, here you go, as William Campbell, Billy Shears, William Shears Campbell, or Fall, combined as fake Paul. Proponents based the theory on perceived clues found in Beatles songs and album covers. Clue hunting proved infectious, and it was a great marketing tool, and they sold a shitload of albums. And within a few weeks had become an international phenomenon. Afterwards, the band left messages in their music and album artwork to communicate the truth to their fans. This included the 1968 song Glass Onion, in which Lennon sings, "Here's another clue for you all, the walrus was Paul." I'm sure we all remember that one.
Right.
In 2009, Time magazine included Paul is Dead in its feature of 10 of the most enduring conspiracy theories in the world. And it's still today. That was 2009. This is 2022, and we're still talking about biological Paul and fake Paul. Paul is dead. We're still talking about it now. Okay? Now, why are we still talking about it? Because there's some, again, as I said, wherever there's rumor, there's truth. So, Andy, I'll start with you, and we'll go around the horn. How long do you think this rumor is going to run the way it's going?
Until we know for sure. I think people, we want to know.
Yeah.
I still want to know exactly what happened on 9/11. I mean, I want to know the truth. We've been lied about everything.
Oh,
And
I
this
got
is
news for you, girlfriend. The truth about 9/11 is hiding in plain sight.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. Oh, my God.
I saw that movie.
Yeah,
And
well, I
it
got
is-
news for you. Amelia and I are doing a show on 9/11.
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
Love it.
Yep.
Yeah. That's, so yeah, this is going to be around until we know for sure. I mean, their music is going to is timeless.
Yeah.
Even young kids today are listening to it, which absolutely is amazing to me, which is great. They need to. But yeah, it's not going to stop until we know for sure.
I think you're right. What do you think, Marianne?
Yeah, she's right. The Beatles are timeless, and that's proven. I mean, Paul didn't think so. If in the continuation of that first interview with real Paul, he even says, retiring, he'll always be writing with John until they're old, running wheelchairs down, a nursing home or whatever. That they would be continuing on with in some form.
Yeah.
But I think it's just this perpetuation of and it's not people like Ann and I that are perpetuating the rumor. It's them, the Beatles.
We know.
It's Billy.
Yeah.
He does it he pokes the bear every single time.
Well, and I will tell people what you guys already know. And so get ready for it. to confirm what Marianne just said. Occasionally, Billy likes to poke the bear. Well, he poked in a very, very big and profound way. The guy you know as Paul McCartney has all but confessed, without confessing, that that he's a hoax.
Yes.
That he's not the guy that you think he is. We already know he's not the guy we think he is. We think he's Billy Shepherd or Billy Campbell. Either way, we know for sure he's not
Right.
Paul McCartney.
No, and they've left clues. I mean,
And he himself said in that one interview where he's in the Jeep, I joined the Beatles as an already set up affair. I don't know how to start another band because I wasn't the one doing it the first time.
Yes. I mean, that's like, it's hiding in plain sight. You can call it what you want to call it. You can call it wordplay, masterful speaking. You can call it whatever you want to call it. You know, the truth by any other name is still the truth. What was that, Marianne? What are you covering yourself? Did you say something? Did she say something bad?
No. I mean, look at it. He was given a house, a car, a career, already made career, and hints and clues were already left for everybody to.
Maybe you're a rich man.
Well, I'll tell you what. And I hope he lives to be 100. But if he doesn't, and
his contract's going to expire very soon.
I think
just like
that we as Beatle fans are entitled to that money, and I think he should share all that money with every Beatles fan because he's got enough of it.
Well, I think he should share that Beatles money with Paul's potential children that are out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
we know
of several of those, and
we know Paul had 3 children for sure that we know of. He had 2 boys and 1 girl that we're absolutely certain of. Any beyond that, I don't know, because Paul, as cute as he was, couldn't keep the pecker in the pants because he liked girls and they liked him. So we know that he has 3 kids. It's the truth. You know,
what was it John said that Paul probably has 25 children out there or something at one point?
We know he's got at least 3 for sure.
Yeah, well, I think
I
know some, and we know some other potentials.
He is cute.
Well, speaking of that, actually, on a very, very serious note, let me lay this on you because this has been reported and talked about. But very, very quickly, it got shoved under the rug a long time ago. 1966, in fact, it got shoved under the rug. The Beatles were playing Candlestick Park in California, Oakland, California. And it is said that Paul did not return to England with the band. They say he stayed here to be with a woman who he fell in love with, and that she was to meet him at Candlestick Park, and in fact did, and that the band returned to England without him. What do you make of that? Is there any truth to that? And I've heard that from more than one person too, by the way. That he fell in love with a girl and said to the boys, I'm here. You can go.
It was Marianne.
Was it Marianne? Was it you, honey?
She's not gonna deny it.
And I wish.
What was you, like a whole 7 years old at the time?
In 66, yeah, 9.
Yeah, it was gonna say 8, 9, maybe.
9. Yeah.
You know.
I don't believe it. There's a picture. I have a picture of Paul returning to London. I think it was on September 1st.
Had a red and white stripe shirt on.
Yeah, I've got some photographs of him coming off that plane, and I have an original newspaper article showing that it was him coming off that plane. So I don't believe that. I think he came back to United States or to England. And about September 11th, around that time, I think he had his first car accident. It was non-fatal. It was, he didn't get any injuries or anything like that, but that's what started the rumor. Because
we're going to talk about that right now. In fact, one of the things that is being touted as the foundation of the Beatles rumor is the Sgt. Pepper album. It is by far visually the busiest album cover the Beatles ever put out. That and Revolver. If you ever really looked at the Revolver cover, there's a lot going on there. But with regard to Sgt. Pepper, they say that if you take a mirror and hold it underneath the words Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club, or under the word Lonely Hearts Club, I think is what it says, that if you hold the mirror under that about halfway, it has the date and in Roman numerals and says he died.
Correct.
And the arrow pointing up is pointing toward Paul. Question about that. When did that become noticeable? When did someone take notice and say, hey, if we let's give me a mirror. Just for the hell of it, just give me a mirror. I want to see something.
Who thinks to do that?
I mean, there had to be a foundation for that. Somebody had to. Here's what I'm getting at. That artwork, the artwork was first. It had to be done so cleverly and so deliberately that somebody had to know to use a flat mirror in order to read those words. You get where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
It was purposeful. That whole album is purposeful.
Yes.
Aleister Crowley's on there.
Twice.
Thomas Edison's on there. Edgar Allan Poe. A friend of mine is on there. Dion, from Dion and the Belmonts. I sang with him on stage. He's on there. And a host of other
Marilyn
people.
Monroe and Shirley Temple.
Exactly. Marilyn and Shirley. And a lot of people, that were famous at the time and well-known historical figures years before. So what's the connection to Paul is dead? Or is it all a smokescreen to kind of take your eye away from what's really going on that album cover? And there's, as I said, there's a lot going on there. One of the things that people point to, again, on Sgt. Pepper, looking down at the bass guitar made of flowers.
Right.
It spells out the word Paul is dead. You can clearly see it. And it's a left-handed guitar.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, with 3 strings.
Yes. Yes. 3.
Not
3.
4.
And that's not the first time we see the letter 3. Abbey Road. We see the 3. The dots in the wall. Connect the dots. They come to 3. Everything from the Volkswagen that's got the license plate of Paul's birthday.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
28 IF. If he had lived, he would be 28. Is that coincidental?
No.
It seems to me that's quite purposeful, very deliberate. Amelia, your thoughts?
I think it has a lot of conspiracy theories all in that one album. All these people have died in that one, and it's kind of giving you a lot of conspiracy theories all in that one thing right there. All these
break
people
it down
were famous.
for me.
Well, you have Marilyn Monroe, you have Paul McCartney, you have all these other people that have died in there. You have the Illuminati, you have all these different symbols in there.
It's interesting that they had Marilyn Monroe because we just did a show on Marilyn.
Yes. Everything's pretty much happening.
What's interesting about it is that there were people then and still people today who don't believe that Marilyn died.
No.
That she was whisked away into witness protection.
She's a John Galt.
to keep her from being killed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because, people wanted her gone. She
And
knew a
there's
lot of
pictures,
stuff.
and there's pictures showing her death per se. of
How
what her
many
were.
pictures did I show, Amelia?
Oh, a lot, like at least
How
30
many
pictures.
Marilyn lookalikes did I show on that
At
thing?
least 4, 5, 7,
At least. That were
And
dead.
The pictures that he showed, the pictures were not in her bedroom. You could
No,
clearly
they were done
see.
on a studio lot.
Yes, exactly. You could see they were in a studio
They
lot.
were. Have you guys seen my Marilyn show? Watch
You
it.
have to see that.
I
Go-
will.
yeah,
Because
Watch
the
the show.
pictures, they're not in
it'll
her
blow
bedroom.
your mind.
Yeah.
That's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yes.
Is it conceivable that Paul McCartney may still be alive? It's. I would love to say yeah, but I don't believe so. I think Paul is gone. I think biological Paul is gone. And no, John Halliday is not Paul McCartney.
No, good Lord.
Not even close.
All
It's
these
those
fake
people, and I need to address this. I just have to address this, and I'm speaking to you guys out there that, and I love a conspiracy just as much as you do. I really do. I mean, I'm a self-professed conspiracy nut. I wear that badge proudly. Okay, but I want you to take a really, really hard look at John Halliday, and look at Paul McCartney, and look at Billy Shepherd. I want you to take a look at these three guys. John Halliday is 5'5". Okay, I'm almost that big. Okay, I'm 5'3.5". Okay, so he's got me by 1.5 inches. All right, but he was a small guy. Did he have a resemblance, a vague resemblance to Paul? As close as he's got to his resemblance is he's British. Okay, I'll give you that. All right. John Halliday is not Paul McCartney. Never was, and never will be. And he sure isn't Billy Shears. That's for
And he sure didn't want to go live in his childhood home and just give tours. I mean,
it's just like, here's this and here's that.
Crazy stuff. Well, I'll tell you what, man, that's an hour and a half. That blew by an hour and a half.
Wow.
There's always
We
so
had
much
fun.
to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love talking about this kind of stuff. I tell you what, I want to invite Ann Walsh and Marianne back to the show when we do our 9/11 show.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Please. Would you guys come
Yeah,
back?
because we love a good
Sure.
conspiracy, and that thing is
Oh,
that thing is full of conspiracy holes all over the place. Oh
Absolutely.
my God.
the things that blow our mind now.
And in case I haven't said it recently, I love Alex Jones. I love you, Alex. In case you're watching the show, if anybody gets, if you know Alex Jones, get her a copy of this show, please. Anyway, Ann Walsh, tell everybody what's going on with you. Give your social and tell them how they can get hold of you.
Well, we have a YouTube channel called Shadow of the Baseman, that gives kind of updates as what we're doing and explains our books, our research. And we also have a Facebook page, Shadow of the Basement, too, where we talk about the rumor and everything. So, and we have an email address, shadowofthebasement.gmail.com.
Beautiful.
At gmail.com to get a hold of us. We just, we wanted, if you got a question, please ask. That's what I
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Marianne Howard, how about you? Where can people get a
Well,
hold
the
of
same
Marianne Howard?
thing. I mean, Ann and I both have our own Facebook page, Instagrams, Twitters, whatever. But we do have the platforms, the Facebook group, the Shadow of a Baseman.
Absolutely.
The YouTube
Oh, sure.
channel is the Shadow of a Baseman. But then we have a website which links everything together. It links our books, it links the reviews, it links the YouTubes, us as anybody can read about us a little bit.
Good.
And that is shadowbaseofabasement.com. Taking the off.
And I've been there, and it's a really it's a very broad website. There's a lot of stuff on that website. So go searching.
Thank you, Dave
The
Cornwell.
email addresses are all there. Links to the Facebook, links to the Amazon purchase. Buy the
You
book.
can find their books
Get it
on
there.
Amazon.
Yeah. It links to everything. It links to the YouTubes. It links to Amazon.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
then it has 3 pages in it. So it's, yeah. And we'll keep adding as we put out more books. It'll expand.
And I can't wait to get my new copy of the next one that comes out. I'm looking forward to that. Amelia?
Yes.
Tell everybody what's going on.
Oh, yes. Actually, tomorrow we're going to have the show of David Koresh, a cult leader again, who believed, he was Jesus, I guess you would say. This one's a little bit different because it's very
David
unique.
Koresh and the Branch Davidians tomorrow night. We're going to cover that one.
That one's a little bit more.
The self-professed Messiah, David Koresh.
And then
man, we got some crazy people.
That one's that one's way out there.
Did you
and
guys
then
do John of God yet?
No, not
Okay.
Who?
John of God.
Not yet.
And then the 11th we got Jonestown.
We are doing. We're going to do. I got it right here. I'll take care of it, Amelia.
Okay.
We got the Branch Davidians tomorrow night. That is October 6th. 7 o'clock Central, 4 p.m. West Coast time, 6 Central. You can reach us, before I do anything else, you can reach us at wrestlingwiththefuture@gmail.com or aachap70@gmail.com for Amelia and myself. You got questions about the show, the website, our Facebook pages, our group, the radio station. Thank you to the radio listeners. 700,000 strong every month on the radio.
Great.
YouTube is just a byproduct for us. I don't really give a shit about YouTube. And I've told YouTube that.
We do. Subscribe.
Share, like, subscribe.
Share, like, and subscribe.
Okay.
Share, like, subscribe.
But honestly, we got like 455 subscribers, which is like nothing really. It's like a bad.
Our radio station
we
is
need,
the
we
best.
need to increase ours. So if your listeners want to, subscribe to ours, that's great.
Well, they're going to hear you on the radio. That's for damn sure.
Yes.
On WWTF radio for sure.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the People's Temple next week, Jonestown.
Yes.
The People's Temple of Jonestown.
On October 11th.
Heaven, that's on the 10th. I'm sorry.
The 11th.
And on 10/11, and then on 10/13, we've got Heaven's Gate with Marshall Applegate. Washed up actor becomes cult leader. How does that happen? And then we're going to go back to the Psychic Realm podcast with Kevin Schopel is going to explain how psychics played into the Bible. He's probably the most knowledgeable Bible scholar on psychics you'll ever hear. And then...
Oh, don't forget, it's on a special time.
Yes, at 8 p.m.
Yes.
on those nights. And then the Love Has One cult. And you want to talk about a fucking screwy cult. Oh, my God. Amy Carlson, the late Amy Carlson, is the leader of this group. She's working 1 year at a Burger King, and within 8 months, she becomes the leader of more than 8 million people worldwide. How that happens is going to blow your fucking mind away.
Yes.
Amy Carlson, that's going to be a 2-parter. You won't believe, I swear to you, ladies and gentlemen, you will not believe the video I show you. You can't make this shit up.
No.
Amelia, please tell me if I'm lying.
No, and this actually, the 25th and 27th of October will be part 2 and part 3 because we've already showed
yes,
part 1.
We've already had part 1.
Mm-hmm.
That's how deep this one is. It's just a 3-parter. We want to say again, in case we haven't mentioned that we lost Loretta Lynn yesterday. Yes. Queen of country music. I'm going to read this to you very quickly. Singer-songwriter Loretta Lynn, best known for the songs Coal Miner's Daughter, The Pill, and Dear Uncle Sam, died yesterday. She was 90. She's widely regarded as the queen of country music and is the top-selling female country artist in American history. She will be missed by her family, friends, and fans alike. And Loretta, rest in peace, sweetheart, and make God smile.
Yes.
On behalf of Annie Walsh, Marianne Howard, Amelia the Pitbull Chapman, I'm Psychic Medium Angelo, the Mad Dog. The Mad Dog, baby. We'll see you next time on What's the Buzz?